Times Square is an argument. The argument is, look how bright we are. Look how much is happening. Look at the sheer volume of color and movement and noise, the compression of commerce into a single overwhelming space, the sense that everything is available and everything is urgent and everything matters right now. The argument is made by 10,000 screens simultaneously, and it is made very loudly and at all hours, and it does not stop to consider whether anyone wants to hear it. I find it exhausting. I also find it useful. Useful because the noise covers you. Useful because at street level there is so much going on that one more piece of movement, a black cat crossing an alley mouth, slipping between a wheeled suitcase and a pretzel cart, moving along a wall at the particular speed that reads as purposeful and therefore invisible, registers as zero. Times Square has the paradox of all extremely busy places. So much is happening that nothing in particular can be observed. I had come here for the billboard. I had seen it from the Hell's Kitchen rooftops on my way back from the meatpacking district, a flash of silver eclipse on the east face of a building at the north end of the square, large enough that I'd caught it from 3 blocks away even in the rain. I wanted a closer look. I wanted to read it the way NYX reads things, which is not with eyes alone, but with everything I have. Smell and vibration and the particular frequency that a thing gives off when it is part of something larger. The billboard was large. The full side of a building, 5 stories up, the silver eclipse rendered in cool blue-white light that pulsed slightly, an almost biological rhythm, like breathing. Beneath the eclipse, in clean sans serif type, Vesper Dynamics, Erebus Wellness Program, because clarity shouldn't be a privilege. Below that, a hotline number. Below that, a web address. Below that, a tagline in smaller print that I was too far away to read clearly, but which had the rhythm of something designed to sound like a gift. I sat on a fire escape railing across the street and looked at it for a long time. It was the word Erebus that I kept returning to. I had heard it in the warehouse, not spoken aloud, but written on 2 of the vials in the case. Small white text on black labels, clinical and precise. Erebus, the same word on the billboard, paired with wellness and clarity, dressed up in the language of self-improvement and pharmaceutical care. The same black fluid, repackaged, marketed, delivered to a city. I smelled the collector before I saw him. They all carry the same scent. I had cataloged it in the warehouse without fully understanding it at the time. Beneath the dry-cleaned wool and the particular antiseptic quality of their cologne, there was something else, chemical and faint and wrong in the way that certain industrial smells are wrong, the way the air near a transformer smells wrong, something operating at a frequency adjacent to normal. Like Erebus, but diluted, attenuated, as if they had been near it long enough for it to become part of them without completing whatever it was doing. He came along the fire escape from above, not from the street. From above, which told me he had been on the roof, which told me he had been watching the billboard the same way I was watching the billboard, which told me he had been watching me watch it. He was not one of the ones from the warehouse. Different build, broader, shorter, the same suit but worn differently, with the ease of someone who has been doing physical work in formal clothes long enough to stop noticing the constraint. He moved along the fire escape grating with a quiet that was out of proportion to his size, the trained quiet of someone who has spent time learning to move through spaces without announcing themselves. He stopped 6 feet from me. We looked at each other. He had a small device in his left hand, rectangular, flat, approximately the size of a television remote. He raised it and pointed it at me with the same casual precision a doctor uses pointing at something on an X-ray. Not hostile, clinical, the gesture of someone taking a measurement. The device emitted a soft tone, one short note, affirmative. He said something into a radio clipped at his collar. Brief, numbers, and then something that sounded like positive confirmation. Then he put the device in his pocket and reached for me. I went left. Not because I had planned it, but because my body had already decided. That is how survival works. Not as a conscious calculation, but as a response that arrives before the thought. The legs moving before the mind finishes the sentence. Left along the railing, a drop to the grating below, 4 feet down and landing silent. And then I was running and he was running, and the fire escape was rattling under both of us. He was fast. Faster than the suits in the warehouse had suggested, faster than his build had implied, with the specific speed of someone who trains for exactly this. Not general fitness, but the particular skill of pursuing things that move quickly through vertical spaces. He took the stairs in 2-step jumps, and he knew where the grating was solid and where it wasn't, which meant he had been up here before or had been briefed on the building. And either way, it meant this had not been an accidental encounter. I went over a railing onto a window ledge. He followed. I went up a drain pipe to the next level. He followed, 2 floors below, recalculating his route with the unflustered patience of someone who is playing a longer game. I went across a gap between buildings, 4 feet of air, a drop of 6 stories on one side and a ventilation unit on the other, and landed on the opposite roof and ran. He stopped at the gap. I stopped at the other side and looked back at him. He stood at the edge and looked at me and did not jump, which was sensible because the gap was navigable for a cat and not for a human, and he was either sensible or had been told not to take unnecessary risks with regard to whatever I was to them. He took out his radio again, spoke into it. I turned and ran across the roof, south, putting distance between us in the way I know best. Not as fast as possible, but as continuously as possible. The roof-level traverse of a cat who knows the city from above, who knows which gaps are jumpable and which ledges hold weight, and which skylights are sealed, and which will flex and not break under a careful paw. 3 blocks south, I stopped in the shadow of a water tower and listened. No footsteps, no radio chatter. The city below, doing what the city does. I sat and breathed and let my heart slow to something manageable. It was when I began to groom that I found it. A scratch on my left shoulder, rear edge, the kind of small, sharp pain that gets filed under irrelevant during an adrenaline event and surfaces afterward when the event is over and the body begins its inventory. I twisted to look at it. The fur was parted. The skin beneath was intact, but for a small mark. A point of entry no larger than a thorn scratch, already beginning to close. Not a thorn. I pressed my paw against the spot and felt it. Something beneath the skin, not deep. Subcutaneous, just below the surface. A hardness the size of a grain of rice that had not been there this morning. I understood then what the device had been. Not a weapon, a delivery system. The reach for me had not been to catch me, but to get close enough for the device to do something I hadn't registered as it happened. The touch so brief and precise that it had been accomplished in the half-second of contact before I went left. They had tagged me. I sat with that for a moment, with the fact that they had been waiting for me specifically, had identified me specifically, had deployed a collector to a specific location at a specific time with a device calibrated for this specific purpose, which meant they had known where I would be, which meant they had either been tracking me since the warehouse, which I had not detected, and I do not miss things like that, or they had predicted where I would go, which was worse, because it implied a level of knowledge about my behavior that no one should have. Specimen 0 black, the manifest had said. I was on a list. I had been on a list for long enough that they had protocols for finding me. I used my claws. It was not a delicate operation, and it was not painless, and I would not recommend it. But the tracker was shallow, and my claws are precise, and I had been through worse, in the early years, in the tunnels, in the places the city keeps its most honest darkness. I worked at it for 4 minutes, and then I held a grain of rice-sized piece of technology between my front paws and looked at it. It was still transmitting. I could feel it faintly, a vibration at the outer edge of perception, the same frequency as the billboard's pulse, the same frequency as something I was beginning to understand was not coincidental. I dropped it through a gap in the roof, edging into the gutter below, where the rainwater would carry it south toward a drain and then into the sewer system. And whatever it told the collectors who were listening, it would tell them I was moving in a straight line toward the river. I was moving in no direction at all. I sat in the shadow of the water tower and felt the absence of the tracker in my shoulder and thought about what it meant that they had tried to tag rather than catch me. It meant they wanted me mobile. They wanted to know where I went, what I found, what I led them to, which meant there was something they were still looking for, something they thought I could find. I looked south toward the billboard, which I could see from here. The silver eclipse pulsing in the dark air above the city, Erebus Wellness Program in cold, clean letters, because clarity shouldn't be a privilege. And I thought about the woman in the red coat and the 12 vials and the methodical packing and unpacking of things that should not exist. Then I thought about the hum. It was louder tonight, faint but definite, a vibration in the rooftop membrane under my paws, as if the building itself were receiving a signal from somewhere below and translating it into a frequency just at the edge of what I could perceive. The same frequency. Everything at the same frequency. I did not know yet what they were looking for, but I was beginning to understand that I was not simply a witness to whatever was happening to this city. I was part of it. The eclipse on the billboard pulsed once, twice, 3 times, the rhythm of it slow and patient, and very, very certain of itself. I went home a different way than I had come. I went home 6 different ways, crossing my own path twice, backtracking on rooftops, descending to street level and ascending again, the full protocol of someone who suspects they are being followed and intends to make it as complicated as possible. Nobody followed me. Nobody I could detect. The distinction, I was learning, was important. End of chapter 3.